Since 1909, the world has seen some major changes, from global events and social revolution to popular fads and evolving trends. It is difficult to name very many things that have remained constant. Throughout it all, however, the fraternity's magazine, the Alpha Gamma Delta Quarterly, has continued to arrive in mailboxes 4 times per year, rain or shine. Published continuously since it was approved at the 1909 convention, the Quarterly has long been a source of history, current events, sisterhood, and above all, pride for fraternity members. The original intent of the Quarterly was to foster the ideals of Alpha Gamma Delta. This, of course, is still true today. However, contemporary readers also find that each issue focuses on a specific feature or topic relevant to members of all ages. The Quarterly strives to serve as an ongoing contemporary forum to inspire and educate members on fraternity, Greek, and women's issues. The Quarterly has also been an important part of the documentation of the growth of the fraternity, serving as a permanent historical record of each chapter and the organization as a whole. However, as editor Tony Whitcomb Eberhardt noted in 1959, the Quarterly is much more than merely printed words on paper. It is somehow transformed into an entity with a personality. In 1909, 5 years after the founding of the fraternity, the first issue was published to much acclaim. Founder Estelle Shepard Beswick served as editor and joyfully acknowledged readers across the country by saying, "To the 9 chapters of Alpha Gamma Delta which are scattered abroad, greetings." Though we are bound together by common interests and ideals, each chapter has felt that she knows very little of conditions and events in her sister chapters, and the alumni often hear no news at all except from the chapter in her own alma mater. As our fraternity has grown, we have felt the need for better communication, and for this purpose, the Quarterly was started. Alpha Gamma Delta sisters eagerly read this first issue of 36 pages and paid a subscription price of 75 cents. This issue, as well as the second Quarterly issue, contained a brief history of the fraternity, published serially, and chapter letters, editorials, chapter and fraternity news, a message from Grand President Jenny Titus Smith, and memorandums from the presidents of the 3 provinces. Over the years, 3 founders served as editor of the Quarterly: Estelle Shepard Beswick, Georgia Dickover, and Emily Helen Butterfield. As today, the Quarterly served to bind members in purpose and service. Helen Reinher Copeland of Zeta Chapter wrote in the March 1914 issue, "The future of our fraternity rests in our hands, from the oldest alumna to the newest pledge. The place that each chapter holds in the college life of which it is a part must be decided each year. If you would have Alpha Gamma Delta stand among the best in your college, make it worthy of the place. It depends upon the individual members of the chapter. Wherever you go, your life is the standard by which your fraternity is judged. Never do you need to be so true to Alpha Gamma Delta as when you stand alone. And it is so worthwhile. It means the best in womanhood." By the summer of 1917, the Quarterly boasted 1,040 subscribers and was determined to help support women in their personal and professional lives. It had clearly established itself as an advocate of women entering non-traditional fields, profiling such fields as journalism, archaeology, architecture, science, and non-traditional aspects of nursing. By this time, founder Emily Butterfield had become an accomplished and well-respected architect, a field dominated overwhelmingly by men. Her advice to young women of similar aspiration was direct and to the point. The study of that art which has to do with the highest type of designing and the erection of buildings is more closely allied to the history of nations than any other art. 1917 also marked the year that lifetime subscriptions, costing $15 and payable in 3 installments, were made mandatory. Members, seeing the great value of their treasured magazine, willingly adapted to this change. 150 alumni immediately pledged themselves to begin the fund to ensure the continued publication of the Quarterly. Grand Council noted, "The establishment of this fund is one of the most important advances of Alpha Gamma Delta. The magazine is the binding unit from east to west to north to south, and it is absolutely necessary that it be distributed and financed in order that it may justly represent Alpha Gamma Delta and ably fulfill its purpose. In its first 21 years, the design of the cover of the magazine changed just 3 times. The first cover, which noted the magazine's title, volume, number, and a note indicating that it was edited by Alpha Chapter, was replaced with a simple design comprised of a vertical arrangement of the name in Old English letters in 1913. This cover held constant for 17 volumes until a new cover by Alpha Chapter member Betty Ramsey made its debut in 1930. This marked a shift toward more elaborate design with the armorial bearings and a border composed of Alpha Gamma Delta motifs gracing the cover. In 1934, the fraternity celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Quarterly, now with a circulation of more than 6,000, with notes of congratulation from sisters everywhere. Founder Ethel Brown Diston noted that the Quarterly was the cement of the fraternity building. The Quarterly binds us together in knowledge and affection. Those who have promoted its growth deserve deepest appreciation and praise. May it continue its valuable service in fostering our splendid ideas. Throughout its history, the Quarterly has chronicled the events of the world at large, as well as the fraternity. In 1944, war was on the mind of the nation, and the Quarterly carried several articles about Alpha Gam serving in the military. A 1945 issue of the Quarterly included an essay by Sister Sybil Jenkins Cummings of Phi Chapter at Oregon State University, in which she recalled her harrowing experience of being held with her family in a Japanese prison camp for 3 years following the bombing of Pearl Harbor. They were finally liberated on February 3, 1945, and Sybil noted in her article that the greatest thrill of our lives came on the night those 800 men of the 1st Cavalry crashed through the walls of our camp. Relieved to have found freedom, Sybil was astonished to learn that 2 of the men in the cavalry assigned to care for her family were husbands of Alpha Gamma Delta sisters. Over the years, the Quarterly has also dedicated itself to sharing knowledge and resources to better the lives of Alpha Gamma Delta sisters everywhere. From articles during the Depression that illustrated how sisters might save money, to articles in the late 90s dealing with hot topics like hazing and alcohol abuse, the magazine has long been seen as a leader in sharing issues and information relevant to women. Concurrently, the Quarterly has continued to report convention news, the scholastic achievements of chapters and individual members, altruistic activities, and sisterly news related to International Reunion Day and other celebrations. The rise of technology has benefited the fraternity's magazine greatly. The spring 1991 issue of the Quarterly was the first to be completely typeset and laid out in-house using a computer. The Quarterly also benefited media far outside the realm of traditional print, as it spurred the creation of the first Alpha Gamma Delta website in 1997. Alpha Gamma Delta Online began with simple graphics, but quickly grew more complex. The Quarterly helped members become proficient in cyberspace by publishing a list of computer terms, Techno Talk, and a list of hot sites for students. Today, the magazine is created using top-of-the-line design software and is printed off-site in Northern Virginia, after which it begins to appear in mailboxes across the globe. Circulation has grown to nearly 65,000 individuals living in countries across the world, and the print version of the magazine is enhanced by online availability. Holding up the high standards of our founders, the Quarterly has been continually recognized by the College Fraternity Editors Association and the North American Interfraternity Foundation for excellence in content and presentation. As the 100th anniversary of the Alpha Gamma Delta Quarterly approaches, it is remarkable to consider the longevity and permanence of the fraternity's magazine. The ongoing commitment of the fraternity's leaders to keeping this essential form of communication alive is evident throughout the past decades, and the magazine's ability to adapt to drastically changing conditions in the media world is truly astounding. Notable above all else, however, is the excellence of Alpha Gamma Delta sisters worldwide. Without their accomplishments, dedication, and talents, there would simply be no story to tell.